All right, moving on to 3.2, regulating the private sector. So in 3.1 we talked about regulating the public sector. Now we are regulating the private sector. 3 learning objectives: explain how government can improve operation of the private sector, distinguish between regulations that promote competition and those that control natural monopolies, and then describe how fiscal policy and monetary policy try to stabilize economic fluctuations. It's how the government tries to regulate. Sorry about that. Okay, moving first. Rules for a market economy. We are in a market economy. It's not pure, but it's still a market economy. The effects of government regulations are all around you. Government required labels that provide washing instructions are stitched into your clothing. The condition of your vehicle you drive is regulated by the government. Some states regulate that tougher than others. Government also regulates how fast you drive and prohibits you from driving under the influence of alcohol. Government has an influence on many aspects of your life as well as on the economy. First of all, they established property rights to protect what is ours. Property rights are legal claims that guarantee an owner has the right to use a resource or to charge others for its use. Human resources, okay, that's our labor. There's a legal claim that when we perform labor, we get paid for it, right? So governments play a large role in safeguarding our property, our human capital, our human resources, by establishing legal rights of ownership. Intellectual property rights. Laws grant property rights to new ideas and new inventions. Inventors reap the rewards of their creation, so they have more incentives to create. Abraham Lincoln said that the patent system added the fuel of interest to the fire of genius. I'm going to get a sticky note out here again. There's one thing that I wanted to make sure that you remembered about this. Sorry, let me find it. There we go. I'll type it in so we can try to remember it. Patents provide a stimulus to turn inventions into marketable products, a process called innovation. Oops, those are exclamation points. Oh, goodness. I hope that wasn't too loud in the speaker. I just realized the speaker's sitting right next to my keyboard. But when we talk about patents right here, oh, I did type that in. Innovation was the word I wanted you to remember. Patents encourage inventors to invest the time and money required to discover and develop new products and processes. The limited life of patents provides the stimulus to turn inventions into marketable products, and that's called innovation. If an innovator or an inventor comes up with a new idea, it's worth their while to get it patented and then sell it. Make money on it, because you only get a patent for so long, and that protects your product. Whatever you have invented, nobody else can invent it. It is yours if you have a patent on it for a limited period of time. If somebody else tries to get a patent on their invention and it's too similar to yours, there are lawyers there that review patents, and they say, nope, sorry, you can't do that. It's already been done, and here's the patent to prove it. So it protects your invention for a certain period of time so that you can market it, so you can get paid for it. And then you take that money and you invent something else. So patents are great. Copyrights. They assign property rights to original expressions of an author, an artist, a composer, or a computer programmer. And then trademark. It establishes property rights to unique commercial marks and symbols, such as McDonald's Golden Arches, the Nike Swoosh, the Walmart Spark, etc. Trademarks protect unique markings or symbols. And then measurement and safety. Much market exchange involves products sold by weight, such as a pound of hamburger, or by volume, such as a gallon of water. To ensure that buyers don't get cheated, governments test and certify the accuracy of various measuring devices. For example, the U.S. Bureau of Weights and Measures is responsible for the annual inspection and testing of all commercial measuring devices used to buy, sell, and ship products. When you get gas, you're buying a certain volume of gas, and you want to get, if you're paying for the gas, you want to make sure that you're getting what you pay for. So people actually come out and test the gas pumps to make sure that they're pumping the right volume of gasoline. Safety. The government has safety measures in place that regulate our food, the prescription drugs that we consume, animals we eat, any consumer product, like a baby crib or a dishwasher, anything that we purchase, the government has regulated it in some way. Market competition and natural monopolies. Business people praise competition, but they love a monopoly. Their praise of competition echoes Adam Smith's argument that the invisible hand of market competition harnesses self-interest to promote the general good. Okay? Competition imposes a discipline that most businesses would rather avoid. A business owner would prefer to be a monopolist. They would prefer to be the only seller of a product, but that makes them lazy. As the only seller, a monopolist can charge whatever they want and get a greater profit than when they face competition. But without competition, there's no reason to do better. So monopoly isn't always a good thing. Promoting market competition. The government has antitrust laws in place, and they attempt to promote competition and reduce anti-competitive behavior. Antitrust laws prohibit efforts to create a monopoly in the market in which competition is desirable. So, although competition ensures the most efficient use of resources, an individual firm would prefer higher price and higher profit of monopoly. But as consumers, we want competition because we want the best product for the least price. And government has laws in place that help make that happen. Natural monopolies. Competition usually forces the price lower than it would be if the products were sold by a monopoly, but there are rare instances when a monopoly can produce and sell the product for less than could several competing firms. And the greatest example that we could come up with was a city's subway service. Subways go underground, you have to dig tunnels, you have to support what you're digging through. So a city subway service is delivered more efficiently by a single firm digging one tunnel system than by competing firms, each digging its own. The cost per rider is lower if the city is served by a single subway system. So when it's cheaper for one firm to serve the market than for two or more firms, it's called a natural monopoly. A natural monopoly, if unregulated by the government, maximizes profit by charging a higher price than is optimal from society's point of view. So government can actually increase social welfare by forcing the monopolist to lower its price. So the government will either operate the monopoly themselves or the government regulates the monopoly, and that's called a public utility. Government-owned or government-regulated monopolies are called public utilities. And then growth and stability of the U.S. economy. The U.S. economy and other market economies have alternating periods of growth and decline, that's inflation and recession, in their level of economic activity. It usually affects employment and production. The government uses two ways to stabilize fluctuations. They use fiscal policy and monetary policy. Fiscal policy uses taxing and public spending to influence things, to influence how much is produced, how many people have jobs, how fast the economy grows. And then we have monetary policy. It supplies money, so it puts money into the system and it takes money out of the system. So for fiscal policy, during a recession, when economic activity in the private sector slows down, the government tries to offset this by cutting taxes to stimulate consumption and investment. So poverty usually increases during recessions. The government tries to slow this down by cutting taxes, trying to stimulate the economy. Or during inflation, when the economy is growing so fast it causes an increase in the economy's average price level, the government tries to increase taxes to slow things down, to cool down spending. Then monetary policy. A good analogy, somewhat good analogy, money reduces the friction or the transaction costs of market exchange. Think about if you have to oil gears, too little money leaves parts creaking and too much money gums things up. The aim is to supply just the right amount of money to help stabilize economic fluctuations and promote healthy long-term economic growth. So first, they try to increase the money supply, which reduces interest rates. If you reduce interest rates, the cost of borrowing money or the reward for lending it in the economy, that's what reducing interest rates does. The intention is to encourage borrowing and spending, and thereby preventing a deeper recession. You want people to borrow and spend money. Too much money in circulation results in higher inflation. Prices of things get higher and higher because there is too much money in circulation. Or the government will try to decrease the amount of money in the system. Too little money in an economy can make market exchange more difficult. If you go back to early America, during colonial times, people tried to cope with money shortages by maintaining careful records, showing who owed what to whom. Just think about IOUs and how difficult that must have been to maintain. Transaction costs associated with record keeping used up scarce resources, which is probably the human resources, and reduced output in the economy. The monetary policy is regulated by the Federal Reserve System in the U.S. Central Bank. This is called the Fed in the U.S. Central Bank. I've put these two videos in your playlist, if you could please watch them. And you are done with section 3.2.